All right, everybody, welcome to the GGG podcast. I'm Paul, and I am here joined by Phil. How are you doing, Phil?
I'm doing so well. I have been, I had like crazy busy 2 weeks, and it's finally like calming down so I can play video games again. And what I've been playing this week is obviously more Spider-Man. I'm still swinging around. I made one of my friends come over and I watched him play the beginning because he hadn't started it yet. But I've also been playing the Dead Space remake, which recently came on Game Pass, which is so good.
Yeah.
Such a good game.
Absolutely. Love the original Dead Space. A little too scary when it first came out for me, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah.
Scary game.
It's still a little too scary for me, a 35-year-old adult man. What have you been playing?
Really not much. I've been in Miami for the majority of this last week, so I'm really, I'm getting close to platinuming Spider-Man 2, which
Nice.
We obviously talked a lot about in our Spider-Man 2 spoiler cast. So be on the lookout for that if you've beaten Spider-Man and you want to hear a spoiler cast. And we'll have that episode posted and ready for you guys to listen. And while I'm mentioning that, if you guys could drop us a subscriber or like, I would so appreciate that. That would be amazing. Get more Golden Glaze content coming at you. It would be appreciated. But it's mostly just been Spider-Man, just because I really haven't had time to play any games, unfortunately. But yeah, I think I only have one trophy left. I think it's down to the last trophy. So very excited about that.
Very cool. It's a satisfying one. It's not too much, which is nice.
Oh yeah, Insomniac is always fantastic at like making platinum trophies that are very achievable goals. And so like with the Ratchet and Clank games and everything, like it's always very doable if you're willing to give it the time. It's not some impossible, well, you need to achieve 150 hit combo on top of a skyscraper at dusk while it's raining. Like that kind of stuff.
There's also, I feel like there's so many platinums that are like, oh, if you miss this one particular moment of this 60-hour game playthrough, you got to start it over. Or ones that like have branching paths that require you to play the game multiple times. No, thank you. Yeah. No, we're not getting that platinum.
Exactly. That's a great point. Why don't we just get into, we got a lot of news going on since we took last week to do the spoiler cast. So a lot of interesting topics to discuss. And we got some relatively big releases coming out this week, starting with the one and only Call of Duty. Or COD.
It's
as the kids
back,
are calling it.
Baby. The quintessential first-person shooter, back with what they're known for: strong campaign, excellent storytelling, and just high ratings across the board. Oh man, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. This is what you remember Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 originally. I think this is where Modern Warfare started to fall off, was Warfare 3.
Yeah, definitely for me. Modern Warfare 2 was really good.
Pinnacle.
Modern Warfare 1 is my favorite, but that's just because it was like the first of that version of Call of Duty. But Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer was just so good. Undeniably good. And then I'd say Modern Warfare 3 is where I kind of fell off the wagon. So hopefully, this iteration is better when it comes to the multiplayer. Early reviews are showing that the campaign kind of sucks.
IGN gave it a 4 out of 10, which is pretty huge.
That's not good.
I didn't know their scale went to 4.
I thought it was just 5 through 10.
But I think it's a good way to shake things up hopefully for Call of Duty. Although, I feel like a lot of this is going to be reliant on Warzone, like what new things they add to Warzone and what their multiplayer is. It seems like single player Call of Duty is almost a vestigial arm that is just going to fall off of the many armed beast that is Call of Duty.
Yeah, I'm I think really at this point they just need to stick to Warzone, stick to games as a service.
Mhm.
You know, that's where their community is, and your community is keeping you alive. So like, I would listen to them. Listen to
Yeah.
your community, do what they want. They're keeping you trucking along. So yeah. Moving right along down the list, a game that my father is excited for, uh, Football Manager 2024. Surprisingly, one of the best-selling sports management games on the market just came out. For those of you who are unaware, Football Manager meaning soccer for the American viewers. Soccer Manager 2024. Yeah, very popular game, has done very well. There has been no other sports management game to even come close to the sales of Football Manager. So I know a lot of people are excited about it. It's a game that always expands and builds upon itself to get better. I remember when my dad would play it in the old days, and it was like you would play the game. It was just a bunch of dots on the screen on your computer,
Yeah.
and it would show like the dot would kick the soccer ball, and then this dot would dribble the soccer ball. And like now it looks like FIFA, or excuse me, FC
Yeah.
24.
So okay, question.
Yes.
Is it when you're the football manager, are you're managing like who's going where on the team? Who's doing what? You're putting people in positions and letting them like square it out?
Yeah, so I would say this is I've limited soccer knowledge from me, but I think a big distinction between soccer and the way a lot of like American sports work is if I'm the coach of a basketball team, I'm not the general manager. Like I'm not picking players, trading for players, making players deals, dealing with their agent. I'm not doing that. I'm just coaching the team that the general manager gives me.
I see.
And
I
so
see.
with soccer, you are both of those things. You are the general manager and you are the coach. So you're trading for these players, doing all those deals and whatnot, and then you're also doing game tactics. You're running practice, and so it makes it better from a video game perspective because you have more versatility and things that you can do as opposed to just being told who's on your team.
Okay.
So yeah.
I legitimately thought this game was like spreadsheets.
I'm sure there's some element of it that is spreadsheets.
Okay.
But I don't think that's the entire point.
Well, next on the list is probably one of my most anticipated VR games ever. Power Wash Simulator VR. First of all, what an excellent game.
Oh,
Just the original.
let's go.
It's like cozy gaming turned up to 20.
Mm-hmm.
You're just cleaning stuff. It's really good if you have some music on and you're just vibing and chilling.
Absolutely.
And just like it makes me want to quit my job and go do power washing for a life. Probably making more money. But then to put that in VR, like it's just the perfect fit for a VR game.
Absolutely. This Power Washer is like it makes my OCD sing. And the fact that I could now do it in VR, and honestly, like it's a very satisfying game, but it's not like a graphically amazing game. And so I know running it on VR is probably going to look the same. And so, like, it's the perfect game for VR. I probably will get this, like, which is so silly, but I'm definitely going to get this game.
There's an interesting thing with VR where it's like, all right, I think like 6 more games need to come out that are like gonna move me to get VR.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because I feel like you got Beat Saber, you got Half-Life Alyx, you got this. I know there's like the Bullet one. There's some really good stuff, but I'm like, well, if I'm gonna get a MetaQuest, the MetaQuest 3 is out. I should get that one. So. But this might push me over the
Vader Immortal is actually also really good on the Quest. Yeah, because I know you're a Star Wars guy.
I am, yeah.
So
Damn it.
it is surprisingly good. Like I wish it wasn't as good as it was, but it is. It's very satisfying. The lightsaber dueling feels pretty good, and yeah. So, and it's like officially Star Wars licensed, so it's not like some knockoff Star Wars thing. So yeah.
Although I've seen some TikToks of some cool knockoff Star Wars stuff where you like force pull people and turn the lightsaber on through their head.
I know that game. God, I'm forgetting the name of it right now.
I think it's like Sword Fight Simulator, something like that, and they just modded it
maybe
like crazy. I don't know.
Maybe. I think it's called Blade and Sorcery. I think that's
Blade
what
and
it's called.
Sorcery,
And it's a very awesome moddable game. One of my good friends has shown it to me many times. Very, very cool game. All right, pressing on in the releases, we have The Day Before. Phil and I were just talking about this before we started recording, and this was, I remember this game being announced many years ago. I want to say maybe like 5-6 years ago. So, and this game is very similar to me, it looked like The Last of Us meets The Division, where it's like The Last of Us, but it's online. What do you know about this game, Phil? I'm a little in the dark here.
It's a game. So I've seen like lots of video exposés about The Day Before and how it doesn't look like a real game. I'm trying to think of another.
Yeah, what do you mean when you say that? What doesn't look like a real game?
It seems like a tech demo. Like the tech demo stuff that they've released seems all like on rails, and it doesn't seem like the game that they're showing actually could exist.
Okay.
Sort of like how we kind of got bait and switched with the original Division, but the game was a lot like that when that came out.
That's true. Yeah.
This looks like the indie version of that. Almost like, I guess, No Man's Sky. I feel like there's other examples of this, but No Man's Sky, when that launched and like kind of had a bunch of features that weren't there that seemed to be there in the beginning, it seems like it's going to release and have very little of what was actually promised in the game, because they are promising almost everything, like destructible environments, heavily moddable weapons, survival stuff, a whole open world, online like factions and all this stuff. And it's a developer that hasn't really proven that is a thing that they do.
Sure. Yeah.
And you never know, like people working with Unreal 5 and doing a bunch of cool stuff can make this type of game, quite possibly, but it just seems highly likely that it is, you're gonna like buy it and it's just gonna be like an asset flip.
Yeah, that could be true. It does look pretty good, but I do get a similar vibe to what you're talking about.
I hope to be proven wrong for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just conceptually, I think the game is a really good idea. I think honestly, I think The Division would be a better game if it was about killing zombies instead of what it's actually about. No offense to the writers of that game, but there's just so much like, I'm going to shoot these thugs in the street before you're like, I'm killing a lot of people.
Kill a lot of people, and some of them are pretty spongy.
Yes. And I feel like you can sell a zombie being a little bit more spongy than a person.
Totally.
But I don't know, the whole narrative thing. It's like they have to go to such lengths to make the people you're killing evil. Of like, these people are the flamethrower people, and they flame everything. They burn everyone. Listen to this recording of this mother and daughter being burned alive. That's how bad they are. That's why you need to kill them. And it's
I'm playing just like, you had me at hello and you gave me a gun. They're dead. I don't. What do you? They could be good people. I don't care.
Yeah. So conceptually, very excited for The Day Before. Who the heck knows if it's gonna perform? Before we move on to our next game, I want to give a little shout out to Return to Moria, because I was very, very close to buying this game. Very close. And I remember on one of our recent podcasts, I was like, I'm probably going to wait for a couple of reviews to come out, some videos, see what people thought. And I am so glad that I did. Holy crap. Like, the game.
Is it bad? I have not been following.
It is being ripped a new a-hole. Like, it really... Yeah, like, not that IGN is like the first place you should go for reviews, in my personal opinion, but
I feel like there's sort of a baseline though. That's how you feel the water's out. It's like whatever IGN does.
Yeah, and I believe they gave it a 4 out of 10. So particularly
They're getting bold with these 4s.
Yeah, I mean they're not holding back. So yeah, I got a 4 out of 10. The combat tedious, awful, doesn't feel good, doesn't make any sense, takes forever, and just like the lack of the limits on what you can do. There's just a lot of limitations on what you can do.
It's a bummer.
Yeah, and it really, I'm still excited for the Stardew-like Hobbit game that is supposedly coming out. But I felt like Return to Moria could have been a lot more. You want to give me a survival game in the Lord of the Rings universe? I absolutely want to play that, but not if it's hot garbage. And I think
Warner Brothers in general, like that, their game wing and what they're doing with their licenses kind of hurts. Like I was just watching a video earlier today talking about the upcoming Suicide Squad game and how that's kind of like on iffy grounds. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't remember that. What is it? Shadow of War.
Yeah, Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of War. Yeah.
Shadow of War launched with all these like loot box mechanics that they had to take out of the game afterwards. Mm-hmm. And I remember hearing something that I think one of the head executives over at Warner Brothers like, we're not doing enough with Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. Yeah. We need to be like getting more out of these franchises. And man, if this is what we're gonna get, it feels just like cheap cash grabs.
Yeah.
At this point,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of companies are doing it. They're seeing franchises as assets, which I'm not necessarily saying that that's not true. It is true that they are an asset, but, I have the firm belief that creativity needs to be the forefront of a game and an idea, as opposed to, we need a game of this thing. Why don't you go make one of those other popular indie games with an indie budget and just theme it our franchise, and it'll be good. And it's like, no, you need to put more thought into it than that, or have a creative team pitch to you instead of telling them what you want them to make.
True.
We will definitely get more into that in our main topic.
Okay, so then next up is the Invincible. Yeah.
Yes.
That comes out this week. I was really interested in this game from the first trailer I saw of it, probably a couple months ago when it first popped up on my radar. It was a little vague as to what it was, but it had this sort of Bioshock Fallout feel. Mm-hmm. It takes place, I believe, on Mars or a red planet, and you're an astronaut making your way through, and it seems very story driven.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it is releasing with much critical acclaim, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it got a lot of traction and publicity. So, maybe now that the game is actually releasing, there will be some gamers or streamers who have some more to say about it. But the game looks aesthetically very good. I can say that. But yeah, just not a lot of information yet about this game. I don't think they've given out a lot of review codes. Or if they have, not a lot of people have been posting about it, unfortunately. So, but fingers crossed, could be an indie sleeper over here. So
it's a dream.
Yes, to dream. All right. So last but not least, we have Dead Island 2 House, like House of Dogs DLC. So I believe this is is this the first official Dead Island 2 DLC?
Yeah, it's their first official DLC. Crazy that this Dead Island 2 even came out, because I remember 2016 or something we saw the first.
Right.
2017.
Yeah.
It went through so many hands. I think it's a miracle the game came out, and it's pretty good from what I understand. And it's cool they're chugging along and pumping out DLC for it, because I think we kind of need these, not AAA, not indie, but kind of mid-tier. And not to say the quality is mid, but not something super ambitious, but something really fun to do with your friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I applaud them.
I'm a big zombie game fan. I know that the genre is kind of going through a rut right now, and it's been very overdone. But to me, there's nothing quite like just mowing some zombies down with a nice gun. Although I know that's not necessarily the approach in Dead Island 2. It's more of like an individual zombie fighter.
But you make some cool stuff and bombs and there. I know the gore in that game is like you can cut off limbs and like stuff falls out and like viscera. They did a really good job with that. Which, hey, I love that. Ramp up that engine, baby. I want to see that in more things.
Absolutely. Let's move right along here. Okay, so our first big news story. So it is N7 Day, the day of our recording. And on N7 Day, Bioware has released a little teaser trailer of God knows what we're looking at, but we can only speculate. So
okay,
yeah,
I watched it once, and I have a lot of speculations.
Okay.
All right. So the original Mass Effect trilogy ends with you making a choice. Spoilers for Mass Effect, but it's been, well, I don't know, 45 years at this point.
Yeah, 47, I think.
47, I think. But it ends with Shepard, the main character, choosing what they're going to do with this Reaper menace, where they're going to either become a Reaper, which is control, or they're going to destroy the Reapers, which is destroy, or they're going to merge all living and technological life together. And that is like a green, that is illustrated by the color green. In this trailer, like sort of the smoke outside of the character, like when they're kind of walking away in this alleyway, and the character is like they're dressed in N7 gear, kind of like the Shepard fit, but with a mask on. Makes me think that it's probably the player character because, you know, we don't know exactly how they look because they're customizable. But they walk into this, like, city, like, vibrant place, but it's covered in this haze of green smoke. Oh. So I'm wondering, because most people, from what I was really tuned in when this game came out, like, the metric said that most people chose the middle or the like combined ending, which was green. Oh, yeah. If that is the story like canon ending, and this is picking up from there.
I mean, I hope so. I don't know what the canon ending is, but to me, like the middle ending, I guess makes the most sense. But yeah, you could also go the other endings as well, like. You know, I guess major spoiler alert for people who haven't played Mass Effect before. But honestly, if you haven't played Mass Effect by this point, you're probably not going to. So yeah, spoiler alert.
Go play it, but
yeah, go play it. It's a great game series and is very influential. And god darn, but like with the Renegade ending, like Shepard lives. And so that could be the canon ending. With the middle ending, it's all about, you know, fusing life forms and, you know,
technological life forms.
Robotic life forms and biological life forms together and fusing those two things. And then the good ending, I'm not exactly sure if I remember the good ending. Phil, I think
that was you like becoming. Are you merging with one of the Reapers and like your consciousness becomes all the Reapers, right? And then you control sort of what happens in the universe,
right? You become a god essentially.
Yeah.
So honestly, they could go all three of those directions, and I would really like it. I know I have my own personal expectations for a new Mass Effect game that will probably never be realized, and I need to let them go. But I revere Mass Effect as one of the greatest game series of all time. I know that Andromeda bombed, but regardless of that, I'm always going to be excited about any Mass Effect news that comes out. Always.
I definitely enjoyed Andromeda. I just felt like it was a weird cop out for them to be like, all right, well, this one's going on in a completely different place. It's unaffected by everything that happened in those games, and then. I don't know. It's a weird thing to gripe about, but they only introduced
it's not a weird
two
thing
new
to
alien races.
Gripe about, yeah.
They're like everybody from the old games are here, like all the different alien races, and then we made like space Australians, and then that's it.
Yeah, they didn't want to commit to what their ending was, and honestly, like It's a can of worms, so I'll try to keep it a shallow can. But like, a lot of people had a problem with Mass Effect 3 and how it
Mhm.
ended.
Yeah,
And I think the reason that a lot of people had a problem with it is because I think when you, at least the original version before it was patched, for people who've played it later on, like it's way better since it got patched. Like
true.
they changed several things about the ending
Hmm.
since it was patched. But if you played it on release, it was really disappointing because the game just
Yeah,
kind of ends, and it really felt like none of the choices that you made prior to that really had any
mattered.
effect on the, yeah, they didn't have any
Yeah.
effect on the ending, and that was very disappointing for a game that had kind of built its franchise on that feature. um, so
It was like a big like two ends of a loom, and then in the middle there was so many like different variations. But then at the end again, it came back to like the one thing. No matter what you did, it would end this way.
yeah,
Um, I am team destroy though, because I got bought into the indoctrination theory. I don't know if
sure.
you heard about this.
No, tell me.
The indoctrination cat. Again, it's big can of worms. I'm gonna keep it shallow. The indoctrination theory. It happens throughout the game that people get indoctrinated by the Reapers whenever they have close contact with them. The theory in this game is that uh, any two endings besides destroy were what the Reapers wanted you to do. Because if you think about it, the middle ending is what the Reapers wanted, to combine human life and or biological and technological life, and the other one is Shepard becomes a Reaper.
Right.
Um, so the indoctrination theory is that throughout the games, Shepard was slowly indoctrinated. Like the Reaper started appearing in his dreams. He was able to understand them. He was able to communicate with the Star Child. They were slowly bending their will, or his will to theirs, or her will to theirs.
Okay.
Um, and so you had to destroy. And then when you destroyed the Reapers, that's where you get the ending where Shepard is still alive. So,
Yeah, that's a good theory. I think it would be very edgy of them to commit that the renegade ending was the canon ending.
yeah,
I don't think that's what they'll do,
probably
but
not.
okay. So before we move on, just because Mass Effect is such a just big place in my heart,
Mhm.
if you saw another Mass Effect game released,
Mhm.
regardless of what canon ending it got, what would you want out of that game? A new Mass
Ooh.
Effect, especially since the last Mass Effect game was really bad. And so like we'll say that this takes place in the regular Mass Effect universe, the
Mhm.
Milky Way galaxy, and in that universe, what would you like to see out of that?
Well, I think it's tempting to say a prequel because I feel like that leaves them a lot of story spaces, but I don't want that. I want for them to stick with what happened and then show us this new future. Do you remember Prey?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So in between like the first Prey release for the Xbox 360, I think, and then the Xbox One era, PS4 era Prey game where it was like Mass Effect, I don't know, it was like BioShock in space kind of. They had a concept and they released a teaser for this game where you're like the character from Prey 1, but you're like this bounty hunter in space in this open world. I kind of want that. Like whatever ending they had, we're in this brand new world, and all the morals are still like gray, and everybody's figuring out what everything is, and you are a character that is living in that world. It'd be cool if it was a Shepherd, or if you found out that you were a clone of Shepherd or something. But I just want to see that world continue after where we left off in Mass Effect 3. What about you?
Um, yeah, I mean, very similar. Like, I would be fine with any of the three endings. I like the big thing that I think like I was really getting into Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, which in my opinion is kind of, or is a really great Assassin's Creed that kind of gets overlooked a lot. And the reason I hold that game in a high regard is because it added this kind of assassin management mini game to the game, where it's like you were the head assassin and you were in charge of these other assassins. You got to assign them, hey, you're going to go do this mission, or it's a big mission and he sent a group of you to go take care of it. And so I had this idea when I was playing Mass Effect 2 and 3 of just like, I think for another Mass Effect, I'd really want you to be like in charge of like a newly founded mercenary group. And
that would be cool.
Instead of working just for like the Alliance, if you're working for a mercenary group, it kind of means that you don't necessarily have to be human. And so you could play some of the other established Mass Effect races. And then instead of just your like Paragon or Renegade choices being limited to you personally, your Paragon or Renegade choices would apply to, are you a good mercenary group or are you a bad mercenary group? And
that would be cool.
Yeah. And then like, what kind of followers do you get? Maybe you get different followers if you're the Renegade mercenary group or the Paragon mercenary group. And so I really want to see, because to me, that's what Mass Effect is. It's about the choices you make and the effect that it has on the universe.
And more specifically your crew, like how you matter to them is huge in that game, like your relationships.
Yeah. And like I was always someone who, like, I'm a freaking goody two-shoe, and I would always do the Paragon stuff. Like a couple Renegade stuff was cool, but usually I do the Paragon stuff. And I think if you had characters or companion members that were only accessible through playing in one moral way, like that would motivate people like me who don't usually play Renegade. It's like, yeah, I'm going to do my first playthrough as a Paragon. But second time, I want to meet those other characters. I'll do the Renegade thing if I can get new content out of it. I think vice versa. So,
yeah. First things first, you got to play some Baldur's Gate.
Yes, very true.
But like in this pitch, it would be also really cool if we saw like the Nemesis system from like the Shadow of War games. Like if you could go out, if you're a bounty hunter and you're picking people up and you have the option to either kill someone or be like, hey, you're pretty cool, join my crew.
Absolutely.
That would be so sick.
Yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully EA can make that happen. All right, we spent a lot of time on that topic. We need to...
Hey, it's N7 Day. We have to celebrate the way that we celebrate. So let's get on to some good news. Oh no, this is the opposite of that. Ubisoft lays off over 100 employees. Ubisoft, Epic, so many companies are sadly dumping employees, and I know in the games industry that is kind of expected. You work on a project and then you get kind of sent out and then brought into the next project.
Yeah,
I totally get it, fair, but it does speak to that maybe we need to have some change, because it feels like, hundreds of employees here and there within kind of a relatively small skill base in terms of like a business sector.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it could have some big waves, not to mention the people whose lives are affected by having a pretty good stable job to going to no job and looking for a job in an economy that is kind of feels like at a knife's edge. It's a real big bummer to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely. Hearts out to everybody who's been laid off. I've been laid off myself before, and it absolutely sucks. It just does. There's no other way to describe it. This last month, Ubisoft confirmed that they cut 1,000 jobs this past year. So not a small amount of people lost their job. And this is just kind of a trend that's been going on this year. There have been layoffs at, like you said, like Epic, EA, Amazon, Microsoft, which we'll get into a little bit later, and some other companies, and it just keeps going. And it's a bit disheartening because 2023 has been such a fantastic year for video games, and maybe that could be part of the reason is there's just so much great competition that, like you were saying that Assassin's Creed Mirage was a really good game, but maybe it just didn't really catch on with sales because it's a flooded market right now.
Well, and we exist in a time too where like when a project is finished, that kind of creates this flush where people get let out. So a lot of big projects this year finished. I'm sure like people at Epic and Unreal, in terms of engine support for other companies and other games that we're working on. Ubisoft, obviously, the Assassin's Creed games and whatever the next one is going into like a different format.
Right.
So yeah, it's an interesting time. It's really just a bummer. I hope those people. I hope there's like, we are kind of living in this weird renaissance of video games. I feel like a lot of indie studios hopefully growing and bringing people on. Hell, Larian, pick up some of these people. You know you're making more stuff. Just scoop them up.
I mean, they're doing a lot of good already. So whatever they decide is best.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Hearts up. Like I said before, hearts out to everyone who's been laid off. I'm sorry about that. That sucks. But moving on with the news, Diablo 4 is getting its first announced DLC. And this is not a season. This is a paid DLC that's going to be coming out. And it's going to be coming out late next year. So probably last quarter of the year 2024. And the expansion is going to be called The Vessel of Hatred. There was a teaser trailer that was released with the game, but it didn't really... You know how Blizzard teaser trailers are. It's a title.
So cryptic. Yeah,
exactly. So it does sound like there's going to be a new region added to the game for people who have been playing Diablo 4 nonstop and are getting sick of the regions. So there will be a new region added to the game, and most likely there will be a new class added to the game. The environment seems to be based on South America, from what some reporters have said. So that's kind of interesting, a good aesthetic. And I'm curious to see if the character that they add is also kind of a South American inspired character. I think that would be very cool.
I feel like you could do like a pretty cool like either Beastmaster or it's tough to within the range of what they have. Similarly, I know they're not. I feel like within the same range. This week coming out, a little Magic the Gathering love, a Mesoamerican sort of expansion that it's like dinosaurs, pirates, and some other stuff, but it's all Mesoamerican, South American themed,
right?
Like Mayan.
Pretty
cool.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did I see somewhere on TikTok that they added like Jurassic Park stuff to Magic the Gathering? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, they have some heavy dinosaur decks, and because of that, they're like, throw in Chris Pratt and Ian Malcolm, whatever. Pretty cool.
That's funny.
Yeah, here's what I gotta say about Diablo 4. I will come back for this. Seasons, not for me. This feels like a big enough thing, and like they're committing to Diablo 4 in a way that's like, when I think of games of a service, I weirdly enough, Diablo doesn't like scratch that itch for me because I'm playing for the story and I'm playing to get my character to a certain point. If I have to like keep replaying the same content over and over to get some new aesthetics or whatever, it just doesn't really, that math doesn't equate for me in that type of game.
Yeah. As someone who's put in way too many hours into Diablo 4, it gets very tedious. And you get to the point where you're asking yourself, is this worth it? And so, yeah, games as a service, I stepped in and tried season 2 that's currently going on right now. Didn't get very into it. So maybe I'll go back to it since I'm making, you got to make a new character. But I don't know. I think the game needs a lot of updates and changes to continue to be implemented.
Speaking of updates and changes, Fortnite has re-released its OG map, which is
what?
It's smart because there's like been so many people putting like TikTok lives or whatever. They've recreated the original Fortnite map, and they're just like, "Oh, I haven't turned off my PlayStation since 2018. Here's the original Fortnite map," which is malarkey, first of all.
Yeah.
But really smart of Epic to be like, people want this, huh? Do we still have the assets lying around? Yeah, throw it in. Yeah. It's cool because they're in a new engine now as well. So it is, I think, turned up. Like, I've seen more people talking about Fortnite in the past week since this released.
For real.
Than
great publicity.
Yeah. I haven't stepped back in, and I actually kind of play Fortnite semi-regularly. So I'm excited to, like, dip back in and go to what I call my home base, which was, like, where I would land when I was new to Fortnite, and I would always die pretty quickly.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad there's some nostalgia that's going on. Just to clear up some confusion, though, people are acting like, is this like a permanent thing? And it is not a permanent thing. I believe it is like part of the current season. So it's just like one little chapter of the current season. So this is a temporary thing. So if you are a fan, like I'm sure if you're a fan of Fortnite, you already know about this. But just in case, like it is a temporary thing. So if you're looking to play the OG map, you better get on it while it's hot and fresh, because it's not gonna be sticking around.
I have a feeling that they're gonna do like OG Fortnite, or they're gonna release like whenever they do different seasons, they're gonna have like, all right, here's the current season, but you can also go play season 1, no build or whatever. Like they're gonna kind of throw stuff in there because why? It's so easy. It's so easy.
Yeah, but it is. But doesn't it work better when they get to whip it out and be like, ooh, come back?
I bet you that it's like OG season will, I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be a permanent fixture sometime soon, because I also think we're getting to a point with Fortnite where they're going to release like Fortnite 3.0 pretty much.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is what they're doing to sort of, I feel like, pad the runway and like get some more dev time.
Sure.
But,
yeah.
In other major updates, a recently released game, Payday 3 got their first update. I haven't been following Payday 3 that much because I know that, like, I feel like Payday 3 isn't going to be a game until a year from now. That's how these sorts of games, like, work, you know?
Yes. So, like, yeah, I would agree with you. Payday 3 did get its first major update this week, and going through all the patch notes, to me, by first major update, it means this is the state that it was intended to be released in.
Yeah.
So
welcome to the state of gaming, baby.
Yep. So if you have been waiting to pick up Payday 3, because we covered it a little bit on the podcast, and it really had a horrible launch, did not sell well. The company even issued a public apology for how bad it launched. And so now, just by judging all of these updates, a lot of them are like, optimization things and glitches and stuff like that. But a good amount of them are also like UI things where they were like, the community was right. This was poorly organized. Let's reformat all of this so that it's not a messy nightmare. And so I am confident in the Payday 3 developers. They have shown with Payday 2 that they will keep updating, keep adding content, keep doing right by the community. But yeah, if you have waited on buying Payday 3, maybe this update is enough to convince you to make your purchase. I don't know, for me personally yet. Still probably waiting for a sale for this one. But
I think it's smart of them because they have a game that obviously people like. Like, it's popular enough that it draws a crowd. But, even if they release it that's not to the optimal level, they're willing to come back to it. And I think that is probably the smartest business thing you could do, is like, hey, people are still going to play this game and they're going to buy the cosmetics because they enjoy playing the game. I think that's, I don't know. I applaud anyone's commitment to making a game work after it kind of releasing to a bit of a flop. Cough, cough, Avengers, cough, cough. But
cough, Starfield,
yeah,
you mother.
Yeah, it's, man, we got one of these. Well, we're gonna talk about Xbox later in the show, but they do feel like they are kind of in a weird curse, and we'll talk about it later. But they buy companies, and then it's like,
what are you doing?
All right,
what are you doing? You didn't have a plan. All right, let's speed through some of the rest of this. Okay, so this is actually a huge news story, but we don't know a lot about it. So maybe there's not a lot to talk about, but it just broke a couple hours before we started recording. So there is a Legend of Zelda movie in development where Nintendo has partnered, and you are hearing me correctly, Nintendo has partnered with Sony to make a Legend of Zelda movie, which is so mind-boggling to me. It's like, wow, we've come a long way where like Sony and Nintendo are like, are we really competitors anymore? Yeah. And like, when I think about it, like, no, not really. Like, you're kind of different markets at this point. Particularly Sony, for those who don't know, Sony owns Columbia, the movie studio Columbia. So that when the movie starts, there's a woman and she's kind of in a toga and she's holding like a Statue of Liberty thing. Those are Sony movies. And they're going to be helping with distribution immense. I think it's going to be completely up to Sony to distribute this movie.
First of all, Sony makes games for grown-ups. And Nintendo makes games for children that only grown-ups play. And I guess most of the Sony games probably primarily children play.
Oh my God! Wow, I feel like if we had bigger numbers on the podcast, we'd be in a lot of hot water right now.
Hey, listen, it's because I speak the truth, and people hate the truth. No, okay. Second thing, Avi Arad is the main producer on this, which kind of stresses me out a little bit.
A little bit.
As a Spider-Man fan, knowing kind of the stuff that he's done behind the scenes to make the directors do certain things and like the reboots and not wanting to work with Marvel, Avi Arad kind of stresses me out.
Did you see the Maze Runner series?
That it's that director, right?
Yes.
I'm down for that. He was a lot of fun. How much do you... I feel like we're at least going to hear rumors about Tom Holland as Link.
Oh my God, that's totally who Link is going to be. That didn't even occur to me, but that's...
Yeah. If Mario was Chris Pratt, Tom Holland is going to be Link, and that's...
I mean, I don't know if Tom Holland is going through like an artistic phase right now where he doesn't want to do big movies because I know he's going to step away from Spider-Man for quite some time. I don't know how long, but yeah, that would probably be perfect. Unfortunately. I mean, not unfortunately, but you know. Yeah, but that's just wild, especially the fact that they're making it a live action. It is not digital, and they have confirmed that, which makes a little bit of sense because with Mario, I believe they partnered with Universal to do Mario. So if they were going to do
specifically Illumination, the Despicable Me studio,
right? And so if they were going to do an animated Zelda, they probably just would have done the same company because Mario did really well. So the fact that they're going with Sony, they're going live action, very interesting. Like okay, here's one question before we move on. Do you want a live action Zelda movie?
No. That's no. I don't see how it could be good.
Who does want a live action Zelda movie?
You know what I want a live action movie of? I want a live action Shadow of the Colossus movie. And I want it to be like Denis Villeneuve. And I want it to be like no words spoken. Legend of Zelda would just be better if Pixar or Illumination did it, because that world is so like weird and dumb and magical that I
was talking about this with my partner today, who is a huge Zelda fan, and to me, like maybe if Studio Ghibli was involved, I'd want a Zelda movie. But that is the exception to the rule. Like really? What do you... I don't know about this.
How are the Goro gonna look in live action? And how sexy are those stupid fish people gonna be? Because you know it's gonna be too much.
Yeah. I don't know. I am so worried about this. But yeah, probably not as worried as like a hardcore Zelda fan. So, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the
I'm
internet thinks because this just broke today. So
I'm willing to get super buff and grow out the unibrow to audition for Ganon, though. So
I think
like,
you'd be a great Ganon. I really do.
Sony, if you're listening,
Yeah. Let's get some likes and comments if you think Phil would be a good fit for Ganon.
get get at me.
Yeah, get
I'd
at it.
love to beat up Tom Holland. No, he's my favorite Spider-Man. I love him. Okay. It's sort of sad news, sort of like a positive spin on sad news for our next story. Bungie CEO Pete Parsons gave up annual bonuses for their CEOs to avoid layoffs, but it wasn't enough. They still had to fire around 100 people, which is such a huge bummer because like Bungie recently got purchased by Sony. Um, they're working on Marathon, which is I've heard kind of shaky based on the early reports. Destiny 2 is still going strong. They're moving towards the last chunk of the Destiny 2 story. But it's, I think that, so they forewent their bonuses for the CEOs, but still it wasn't enough to stop them from firing 100 people. And, I'm sure it's kind of a machine already over there. Like, they have what they're going. They probably, these were layoffs that, I don't actually, there's no positive way to spin it. Like, layoffs suck no matter what.
They do.
Those people could have been working on Destiny 3 or Marathon. And, yeah, I'm happy about the, hey, we gave up our bonuses, but maybe your pay doesn't need to be as much as it is.
Yeah, I'm kind of just like I'm kind of not sure if this is just trying to be a PR story. If it's trying to be like, well, we gave up our bonuses, and we still had to fire people, and so like, look, I think it's fantastic that they gave up their bonuses. That is the right thing to do, and hopefully they saved some jobs by doing that. But we're just talking about your bonuses. We're not talking about, you didn't give up your salary. So like a hero. Yeah, I don't know about that. So that's a bit disappointing again, as well as to the layoffs at Ubisoft and EA and all those other companies. Hearts out to you. That really sucks, and hopefully you guys will find something else on the horizon.
I'm checking at I don't. I'm looking at the median income at Bungie. The average Bungie executive compensation is around $242,000 a year, which is quite a bit. At Bungie, the most compensated executive makes $600,000 annually.
Well, it's not ridiculous. It's very high, but it's not
very
insane. So,
yeah. I'm sure whatever, like, if the highest went down to 200,000 or whatever, which feels okay for an executive. I'm not super upset at that. Still a lot, but it's at least it's not like, oh, we make I paid myself $50 million. I decided to give myself a raise and then a bonus of another $6 million.
Yeah, when we're not in the millions, it's like it's hard.
You're still human.
Yeah.
So it's sadly probably just the way that it is of the business. But I'm sure we could have done more, and partially maybe a bit of this is on us as gamers of like. Destiny is it got caught in this weird place where Destiny 1 came out and that was supposed to be a 10-year-long game, and then Activision bought Bungie and they were like, now you got to make Destiny 2 and then make one like every year probably. And Destiny 2 has been in this weird spot of like, getting updates and seasonal stuff.
When did Destiny 2 come out now? I feel like it's been some time.
I think it had to be like 2017, maybe 2018.
Okay, so 5 or 6 years, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to Google it to make sure, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it's.
I hear what you're saying, but I also feel like Destiny is one of the worst games when it comes to like microtransactions, as well as like, hey, pay for this content that should be free, and we're just locking you out of it. And it's like, I have no problem paying for DLC. No problem with paying for DLC at all. Like, you want to put new content in the game, I should pay for that because people developed that new content and they worked on it. But the amount of paywalls that I encountered when I had bought said DLC, like too many times for me.
Too many. Destiny is like this weird web of like blockages.
Yes. Yeah. And if you don't, and honestly, if you're not willing to financially commit to Destiny, it's not worth playing, in my opinion. It's just not, because you're just not going to get out what you put in unless you buy the best version, the most expensive version you possibly can, because you're eventually going to get to a freaking paywall somewhere down the line. So,
which even on a deep sale is somewhere around $100 to get everything.
Yeah.
But I think this is just probably more proof that games as a service are not it. You know, Fortnite is kind of a hit. There are other things that are kind of like, you know, the Battle Royale's kind of hit and blew up. But games as a service just doesn't work that well. We want new stuff. We want variety. We don't want like comfort food and then just little tiny extra bits that we pay $5 and $10 for.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that games as a service works in certain, like we were just talking about Fortnite. Like Fortnite is evidence that games as a service can work. But it's everybody's just trying. I feel like a lot of people are just trying to copy the Fortnite model, and it's not. You know, like how many versions of the iPod can you make? You know, like I don't.
Yeah, it's. I think it's the nature of battle royales where like every moment is so tense and like every interaction is different. That keeps that game alive. But when it comes to Destiny, like you can do the same raids and the same things to grind for when you're grinding for stuff like weapons and stuff, it just doesn't feel new. It gets boring really quickly. But I could go on about this for hours, and I know we have a main topic to get to.
We do have a main topic to get to, and let's get to it. All right, so our main topic for this week, not a lot of news coming out of this, but honestly, Phil and I both felt that this was a good topic to kind of open up a discussion about. And the main topic is a report coming out of GameSpot that Xbox Games has made a deal with in-world AI. And in-world AI is going to be assisting Xbox Games in game development indefinitely. So I guess that also means the contract could be terminated whenever, but we don't know the exact details of what exactly they're going to be doing. But the report specifically outlines the use of AI and what they intend to do with it. And so those intentions are that they're going to be having AI work on the story, the narrative, the dialogue, quest lines, quest structure, quest assignment. And I'll get things started with my biased opinion immediately, but I hate this. I hate this so much, and for me, like I got to admit, like I'm a little biased against AI in general. I know that there are some people out there who really like and support AI, and look, I live in the real world. I accept that AI is going to happen. But if you would have told me we're going to have AI work on the engine to make sure that our games are optimized and to make sure that our engine runs well and that it looks good, like I would have been like, that sounds like a great use of AI. But what you're telling me right now is you're telling me that you're going to have AI in charge of the creative side of the game. And that's very bad to me, because essentially you're just going to reproduce these quest lines, reproduce these narratives, and maybe in-world AI is very sophisticated and it can really do some creative things. But what this screams to me is template design. That's what it screams to me. It's like we're going to give a template and the AI is going to fill in the template. And that does not excite me as a gamer. That does not say new ideas to me as a gamer. And the fact that Xbox Games is just kind of making this blanket deal, it's not, because this is not for one specific game. This is for their games moving forward. So that's worrisome. So like we'll find out more about this as it develops. Like this is a news story that broke yesterday that we still don't have all the details on. But yeah, what are your initial thoughts about this, Phil?
Well, I feel like for the sake of argument, I should try to be positive about
Sure.
this.
Well, let's debate show this. Let's debate
show this. But I do want to mention one thing real quick. The Xbox curse is real. They just bought Activision, and the worst Call of Duty campaign came out. I know that they didn't have anything to do with it, but they bought it, and then this happened. Okay. Here's the thing about AI.
All right.
It's not really AI. It's not artificial intelligence. It is like copying what has come before and sort of regurgitating it into a format that is palatable.
Yeah.
It's we made a bunch of like unique little parrots that we go like we feed a bunch of stuff into and we're like, all right, tell me a song, and then they sing like 15 different songs put together with some sort of semblance of reason.
Yeah, I feel really bad interrupting you, Phil, but like I saw an interview about a designer of AI, and the thing that terrified me about it was that he was like, we don't exactly know how it works. And the interviewer was like, what do you mean you don't know exactly how it works? You designed it. He's like, well, what we designed was a learning algorithm. And once it has that, we don't necessarily know how it learns to do things. And so that, like, if you can't tell me how it works, like, what?
Yeah, that's fair.
So sorry, keep going.
No.
Keep going.
To go down this rabbit hole, what if it's not even AI and it's just some form of extra dimensional being that's like, oh, I found a way in. This is how I... Anyway.
Okay.
But is that not just what us humans do? Do we not stand on each other's shoulders and make stuff? And don't the companies who buy the licenses to these AI deserve money that they're not spending on human beings with all their needs, like supporting a family and healthcare and food in the break room? And couldn't we just get infinite good games, so much so that the idea of gaming becomes moot? And I know they're not going to do it at first. We're going to get some really weird games where the hands aren't animated right because they don't know how to do human hands because they don't make sense. Obviously, this sucks so bad.
No, I mean, I know a lot of that was comedy, but like, I thought the very beginning of that argument, you made a good point of just like, well, don't people fill in templates? Isn't that what they do? And you know what? I would say like uninventive. Is it uninventive or inventive? Well, whatever. You know what I mean. Non-inventive. That's not even it either. But people who lack creativity do things in a very structured way. And so you could say that, gaming companies who are not very creative would do this anyway.
Yeah.
But to me, all that tells me is that you're going to have games, Xbox games, that come out that are not creative and that are very cookie cutter and that Microsoft can just make at a fraction of the price. And then when it does bad, it's like, well, we didn't spend that much money on it, so it doesn't have to do good. You know?
Our returns were one guy typed, make Mario but cooking game. And then... AI spat it out, and then someone bought it for $35.
And we didn't do anything.
We didn't do nothing. But I do think there is something to like. I dabble in writing, and there's like the Dan Harmon story circles based on another writer who I can't think of right now. But there is sort of like almost a structure to how we tell stories, and you kind of slot things and different points in. And I think that, to get weird and reductive, our brains are kind of like computers. We're just organic computers, and we made non-organic ones, or ones made of refined metals.
Sure.
So
getting back to Mass Effect here. Okay.
Yeah, again, we have to destroy them, otherwise they win. No, but I don't know. I think this could be cool, used in addition to the amount of people that we have working now, if not more. If this cuts some sort of cost that allows them to employ more people to put more creativity into the world, excellent. I know, however, because that's not how companies work, they're just going to use it to cut costs and get rid of people. You know, I can't remember who posted this online, but it does suck that we made AI to like ostensibly do the work that we didn't want to do, like, you know, till fields and like clean sewers, and now we're doing that stuff, but the robots are like writing movies and making music and making video games.
Yeah, it does. I think that AI has already hit the entertainment industry. This is really, it's really hit the entertainment industry first, which is weird because like you'd think we'd be prioritizing doing like you just said, the real stuff that we don't want to do as opposed to writing movies. So yeah, I also think it's a little interesting that Microsoft, who is kind of a pioneer when it comes to AI, they've done lots of AI press conferences, lots of AI presentations, and yet they partnered with another company to support them. And that kind of tells me that they're not confident in their own AI, because usually if Microsoft can do it in-house, they'll do it in-house, or they'll just buy the company. Maybe they'll buy in-world AI down the line.
Probably.
You know, something like that. You know, I mean, look what they bought Skype and then they turned it into Microsoft Teams, you know, so.
And now no one uses it.
And now no one uses it because they think the first video chat application was Zoom, which is ridiculous. So yeah, I really, again, I do have a bias. Like, I understand that as a programmer, as a game designer, there are things that you don't want to do and that are tedious and annoying. And like, if AI can help you do them, I think that's great. You know, like you said, like eliminating things we don't want to do. But I have a feeling that companies are just going to use this to get rid of people, and that we're going to continue to see layoffs, and we're going to have a lack of creativity in the gaming industry, where we see all of these games for services come out and they just strip more content away and charge the gamers more, and we're paying for the work of a program rather than, you know, contributing to someone's livelihood. So again,
hey, but you know, if we're all laid off, we have more time to rise up and make guillotines and explosive devices as a large conglomerate of the workforce.
Sure.
And you know, that would be great to just have a well-designed battle scene, and that's how you need the game designers in there for that. Yeah, no, I think this kind of pushes me further away from Microsoft, to be honest, and I've been pretty properly pushed away from Microsoft as is. Game Pass is great, but it does feel like too good of a deal that only exists because Microsoft has like infinite money. But if I'm like really excited about a game coming out, it's typically either a third-party game that's really, really cool, Nintendo, or Sony. It's just the way it is now.
Yeah, unfortunately. I wish that wasn't the case, because, like, you know, while I am, you know, I would say I'm a PC gamer first, but a PlayStation gamer after that. Like, I'm not a fanboy. Like, I want Xbox to have good games, because I believe if Xbox has good games, it puts the pressure on Sony to make good games, and it puts the pressure on third-party developers to make good games. Like, I believe in competition, like, which is like what capitalism is supposed to be about, as opposed to being about a bunch of monopolies. So, like, I believe competition drives quality, and you know, we'll see. I hope that other game studios and big companies don't follow this, but I'm guessing that they're probably gonna have to, just because of costs and whatnot. So I hope that I know that a good chunk of game developers have started unionizing over the last couple of years. I know that not all of them have been successful, but this is probably something that a union needs to step in and negotiate some deals, you know, with keeping people employed.
That was a point. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that hopefully the best case scenario coming out of this is that we will see some pretty strong game dev unions in response to this because, again, when anyone is faced with something coming in to eliminate their job, especially in a field that kind of requires some creativity, that is the type of thing that we need to fight for.
Absolutely. All right. Well, kind of a somber and political note. Hey, it is also election day, so maybe that vibe was in here somewhere.
It snuck its way into our hearts.
It did. But we are over time. We got a long podcast for you this week, so a lot of news we had to get through. Glad we got to talk about as many things as we did. But thank you for joining us on the GGG podcast. If you could drop us a like or hit that subscribe button, please do. We would appreciate it. And you can also find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and many other podcast listening applications and tools. And if you also want to check us out on TikTok, you can follow us at Golden Glazed Gaming. So thank you for joining me this week, Phil. Good to get back to the regular routine.
As always, my pleasure. My pleasure, Paul. Well done. Good show this week.
Good show, good sir.